Good morning, grade 4. We're back for math, and yesterday was a rather, for some of you probably found it quite easy, but it was a tougher concept, so I thought we would do a review today. So we're going to be reviewing totals and equations. So this is what we were looking at when we're trying to find totals and make an equation of them. Totals means we're going to be adding, so the total is part 1 plus part 2. But sometimes we don't know what one of the parts is, so then we say part 1 equals total minus part 2, and if we didn't know what part 2 was, we could say that total equals part 1 minus part 2. So here is an equation. I have come up with all the different three equations I could make. I could say that Z, which is the total, equals 19 plus 25. I could say that 19, which is part 1, equals the total minus 25. Or I could say if my other equation would be part 2, it's 25, which would equal total minus part 1, total minus part 1. So those are the three equations I could make. So let's do this one together. What are the three equations that we could make for this? We could say 18, which is the total, equals 6 plus S. Or we could say for part 1, 6 equals 18 minus part 2. Or we could say that part 2, which is S, equals 18 minus 6. So those are the equations I could make. Now if I'm looking at this equation, which is the one where the letter is all by itself, the one you would want to choose to solve it? You're right, it's right there. Which equation here has the S all by itself on one side? That's the one we would have to use to solve it. So I've got three more like that we're going to go through. So we're going to come up with the three equations. So we'll start with the total. 33 equals S plus 17, because total equals part plus part. We could do part 1 equals total minus part 2. Or we could say part 2 equals total minus part 1. And which one do we have our S by itself? There we go. Now we're going to look at the next one. Here we have our total is 45, which would equal 15 plus S. We could have part 1 equals total minus part 2. Or we could have part 2 equals total minus part 1. And the equation we would choose to solve this would be this one. Here we have total is W equals 17 plus 5. We could do part 1 equals total minus 5. Or we could do part 2 equals total minus part 1. And this is the one that we would solve. So if we were going to solve back here what Z equaled 25 plus 19. So that would be 14, 44. So Z equals 44. Here we had to figure out what S is. S is 18 minus 6, which is 2, 1. So S equaled 12. Here we had to figure out what S equals. So S equals 33 minus 17. I cannot do 3 minus 7, so I'm going to trade. 13 minus 6 is 7 is 6, and 2 minus 1 is 1, so S equals 16. Here I have to do another subtracting, so S equals 45 minus 15. 5 minus 5 is 0. 4 minus 1 is 3, so S equals 30. Here I have to add 17 plus 5, that's 12. W equals 22. So that was how we were doing that yesterday. Then we have a chart where we need to put the information into the table and then figure out what our equation is. So this is our robin column, our cardinal column, our total of birds, and then what our equation is. So we know that there are 6 robins. There are 17 in all. Let's use G. So our unknown is going to be G. So if I was going to write an equation, G, so I know my total is 17. So I'm going to do 17 minus 6, which would figure out my amount of cardinals. Here I have 9 cardinals and 21 robins. What I don't know is my total. And when I want to figure out my total, I add part 1 and part 2. Because remember, these are my part 1 and this is my part 2. Here I have 33 altogether. I have 16 robins, so that means I do not know how many cardinals. So cardinals is part 2. So I'm going to go total minus part 1. I know that I have 11 cardinals and there are 45 birds in all, so that means I don't know how many robins I have. So that would be part 1. So G would be 45 minus 11. Here I have 17 robins and 16 cardinals. So that means I don't know how many I have altogether. So I'm missing my total. So for figuring out total, I do part 1 plus part 2. Here I have 45 cardinals. I have 117 birds in total. So that means I don't know how many robins I have. So in order to figure out robins, which is part 1, I have to do total minus part 2. So now I want to figure out what they are. So 17 minus 16 is, oops, that's 1, 1. So G equals 11. Here, 21 plus 9, that's 10, 30. So G equals 30. There are 30 birds altogether. 33 minus 16, I can't do that. So 13 minus 6 is 7. 2 minus 1 is 1. So G equals 17. 45 minus 11, that's 4 and 3. So G equals 34. 17 and 16, that's 13, 3. So G is 33. I have 33 birds in all. Ooh, this is a big one. So 117 minus 45. Always make sure you line up those numbers. Subtract. I cannot subtract there, so I'm going to turn that into, so G equals 72. Now we're going to get a table where it has some information and we need to circle the total. Then we need to write the equation and solve it. So, okay, which is the total? 14 cats, 16 dogs, W in all. That's the total one. Then I need to write the equation and solve it. So I'm solving for W. So W is my total. So when I am looking for the total, I do parts together. 16 plus 14, so W equals 6, 10, 30. So I have 30 animals, cats and dogs and all. Here I have 53 hockey cards. W he kept, 27 he gave away. My total would be this one, that's what I have all together. So I know my total. So it's going to be total, take away how many he gave away. So 53 take away 27. 13 take away 7 is 6, 2. So I'm left, he gave away 26, or he kept 26. He gave more away. Okay, Mike has 19 cousins, 12 are girls. W are boys, so the total is 19 cousins. So the total is my big number, so that means it's going to be a subtract. So he has 19, take away the 12 that are girls, and how many does he have that are boy cousins? He has 7 boy cousins. There are X yellow apples, 17 red apples, 25 apples altogether. So this is my total, 25 apples. Oops, here I'm solving for X, not W. X. I know my total, so I'm going to take my total, subtract my other number, and that will tell me how many yellow apples there are. So I'm going to cross that out. Becomes 15 minus 7 is 8, and 1 minus 0. So there are 8 yellow apples. Lucy ate 12 cookies. Lucy gave X cookies away. She had 25 cookies. So her total was 25 cookies. So Lucy had, I know my total, so I'm going to take away the other number. So X equals 25 minus 12. 5 minus 2 is 3. 2 minus 1. So she gave away 13 cookies. Kevin has 16 stamps. Jeff has 25 stamps. They have W stamps in all. So my total is, I don't know. So when I don't know my total, I'm going to add. So my total would be 5 and 6 is 11, 41. They had a total of 41 stamps. So our pages that you're going to do today look very similar to the ones you did yesterday. Same thing, you need to write the 3 equations for the table, and I even give you the helpers. And then you need to write the equation where the unknown is by its, or circle the equation. So here I circled where the K was by himself. Here you needed to write an equation where R is by itself. So here's my information. R by itself is a part, so I'd have to do total minus part 2. So you're going to do that for those 3. You need to circle the total in the story, then write an equation and solve it. So that is just what we finished doing together. Oops, shouldn't have done that. This is my total that's missing. So when my total's missing, I have to add the 2 parts together. So there were 13 marbles altogether. So you need to figure those out. And then there is a table, just like the one we did here with robins and cardinals, where you're going to do the same thing, except for it's blue marbles and orange marbles. You need to figure out the blue ones, the orange ones, the blue ones, the marbles in total, and give me the equation, and you're using F. So I hope that it goes well the second day doing this. If you understood it already on yesterday, on Monday, that is awesome. It's just a good review for you. So I hope that it goes well for you grade 4. Enjoy math.